everyone, this is Mrs. Bokerman. Today, this video is going to teach you about the law of cosines. So again, this is another rule that you can use when you have a triangle that doesn't have a 90-degree angle. So when you have a triangle that has 90 degrees, you can use SOHCAHTOA, but when you don't, we needed another way to solve for those triangles. Okay, so the law of cosines has one formula. It actually looks like there's three different ones, but they're actually all the same. It just depends on what angle you're trying to find. And so I tried to make it color coded for you. Remember that a big letter represents an angle and a small letter represents a side. So this should look very familiar. This first part of it kind of looks like the Pythagorean theorem, like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, and so the second part of it is part of the law of cosines as well. But what I wanted you to point out is these are actually all the same. It just depends on if I'm trying to find angle A, then little a is on the other side. And then on this side, I have B's and C's. Versus if I'm trying to find angle B, then side little b is on the outside of the equal sign, and I have A and C. I have the other two. And similarly, if I'm trying to do cosine of big C, like angle C here, then little c would be on this side, and I would have A and B squared and A and B again. So these are actually all the same. It just depends on basically what angle you want, puts your side on the other side by itself on the equal sign. Okay. So let's get started. I'm going to do 3 examples with you. And so you're going to be given 3 pieces of information and asked to solve the triangle, which basically means you need to find the other 3 pieces that are missing. So in this case, I give you 2 sides and I give you an angle. And so you can see I kind of filled out what we have. And I cannot use the law of sines because in the law of sines, you have to have an angle with a matching side. I'm conveniently missing the side length, which is why I need to use the law of cosines. Okay, if I had this side length, then I would simply use the law of sines because it's a lot easier. Okay, so since this is the angle that I know, this is side length little a, and that's the formula that I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to use this formula, and then I'm just going to put in all the information. I don't know A, that's what I'm trying to find, but I do know these other 2 sides and these 2 sides, and I do know angle A is 40, so I'm going to fill it in. Okay, then I'm just going to use my calculator and kind of simplify things a little bit. I'm going to figure out what is 12 squared and 20 squared. And I'm also going to figure out what is 2 times 12 times 20 times the cosine of 40. Since these are all numbers, you could actually put that whole thing in your calculator and you get this. And then I'm going to take the square root of both sides because I want to get A by itself. So I get A to be 13.3 something, 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 something. We're going to always round to 1 decimal place or the nearest tenth. So I'm going to say that it's 13.3. So now what that means is now I have a triangle, and now I actually know all the sides. I just need to find these other 2 angles. So I'm actually going to, you could continue using the law of cosines, but the formula for the law of cosines is a lot longer. So I'm going to actually switch and now use law of sines because I have a matching pair. So I'm going to say that the sine of angle 40 is going to equal, or over 13.3 is going to equal, now I'm going to pick sine B, it doesn't really matter, and over 12. Okay, so I'm trying to find this angle here. And then since I have a proportion, I'm just going to cross multiply. So I'm going to bring the 12 up and bring the 13.3 up. So if I'm trying to find sine B, I'm going to divide this over. So it looks like this. Okay. And then my last step is because I want to find the angle, I need to use the inverse sine button or the second and then hit sine, and I'm going to type this in. So you'll see it looks like this. And so you end up with, if I do inverse sine of whatever this turns out to be, I get 35.4. So now I have 2 angles, and now I can just use my knowledge that a triangle adds up to 180. So if I take 180 minus 40 minus angle B, I can find angle C, and angle C turns out to be 104.6. So now I found all the missing sides and the missing angles. And so the triangle is solved. So you could use law of cosines again, or you could switch after you find that first one to do law of sines, which is, I think, a little bit faster. So let's try another one. Okay, so again, I have side, and an angle, and you could see if I put out the information, I'm clearly missing a pair, so I can't do law of sines. This time I know angle B, so I want to find little b. So I'm going to use the same formula, except for now I want B, and side B is on this side. So now I'm going to fill out all my information. B squared equals A is 14 squared, C is 10 squared, minus 2 times A times C times cosine of 40. I'm going to type that whole thing into my calculator. I'm going to get 94.585. I'm going to take the square root, and I get 9.7. Okay, round to 1 decimal place. So now I know that I have 9.7. And now that I have all the sides, I can use law of sines again to find this angle. So I'm going to pick angle C. So I'm going to set up my proportion. The sine of the angle over the side length is equal to sine of C. I don't know what that is, but that's what I'm going to try to find. I'm going to try to find this angle here over 10. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So 10 times sine of 44 equals 9.7 sine of C. Then I'm trying to find sine C, so I'm going to divide this over. So I get that. And because I want to actually find the sine, I'm going to do the inverse of that. Okay, second sine again, type this in, and I get 45.7. So now I know that angle C is 45.7. Okay, now the last part is super easy because now you got a triangle. Triangles have to add up to 180. So 180 minus 44 minus 45.7 gives me 90.3. And now I have all of the angles and all of the sides, so my triangle is solved. Okay. All right, we're going to try one more example, which is slightly different, but another way for you to use the law of cosines. All right, so in this case, this is a case where you're given all sides, and I don't have any angles. So I have to use the law of cosines. And when you're given side, or you're given all the side lengths, in order to do the law of cosines, you absolutely have to choose the biggest side. So in this case, the biggest side between 18, 12, and 9 is the number 18. So that means the first angle I'm going to solve for is angle B. Okay, and there is a big mathematical reason behind that, but without making the video too long, I'm just going to tell you to always choose, when you're given side, to choose the biggest side. Okay, when you're doing law of sines, you want to choose the smallest one, sine small, SS. When you're doing law of cosines, you want to do the biggest side. Okay, so I'm going to find angle B first. So same thing. I'm going to find angle B, except for this time, I can't just type this whole thing into my calculator because I don't know what this is. Instead, I know all the side lengths. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what is 12 squared and what is 9 squared. I'm not going to add this part on, but at the same time, I am going to multiply 2 times 12 times 9. So here's kind of what I get. 18 squared is 324. 12 squared and 9 squared, I can add those together. I get 225. And 2 times 12 times 9 gives me 216. Now, I cannot subtract these because this 216 is attached to this cosine. So instead, what I'm going to do is take this 225 and I'm going to actually subtract it over. Okay, so when I do that, I get this. 99 equals negative 216 cosine B. So I'm trying to find this angle B here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 216. But since I want the angle, I'm going to do second cosine, so it's the inverse of it. Okay, so if I want angle B, I got to do the inverse, second cosine of 99 divided by negative 216, and I get 107.3. Okay, so now I know this angle. Once again, now because I have a matching pair, I can stop using law of cosines and I can start using law of sines because it's a lot faster. And so I'm going to find angle C because it's the smallest side. So I'm going to set up my proportion. The sine of the angle over the side, 18, equals sine of C over 9 because that's what it's equal to. cross multiply, and then I'm going to divide by 18. And then since I want the angle again, I'm going to do inverse sine, and I end up with 26.4. So now I know that 26.4 is angle C. I'm almost got my triangle all solved. The last part is to just use the fact that triangles have to add up to 180. So 180 minus 117.3 minus 26.4 is 36.3. So that's the last part of the triangle. Okay, these are very long problems. They're very calculator based, so be very careful how you type things in. Okay, I'm going to put up one more problem on here that's similar to this. I'd like you to pause the video and try to work it out, and then when you're done, unpause the video and I'll show you the answer. But again, this is one where it's a side, a side, a side. You have no angles, so you don't have a choice. Okay, so when you're going to do this, you're going to use the biggest side. So between these numbers, the biggest side is actually 37. So you want to find angle C. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, use your formulas, and see if you can get the right answer all the way through. When you're done, come back and unpause the video. All right, so let's see how you did. Okay, I have all these side lengths. I did my algebra. I subtracted the 25 squared and 32 squared over. Then I divided and I got an angle of 79.7. Then once I had my one angle, I went ahead and I used the law of sines. Okay, I found angle A because that was the smallest. I found it to be 41.7 once I did all my cross multiplying and dividing and then doing inverse sine. Then I used the fact that triangles have to add up to 180 and I subtracted it and found the last side of angle B. Okay, so the biggest thing you could do right now is practice, practice, practice. It's a lot of calculator steps. Be very careful how you type things and where you put things in the formula. Other than that, that is the law of cosines. So now you're good to go and practice and try some homework. Thanks for watching.